Well, hello again. This is Scott Goodwill here. Well, my real name's Scott Lance, but my character's name is Scott Goodwill. So yeah, I'm here to explain to you a topic about a show on Nickelodeon that is the most overly despised show on the network. And no, it's not Breadwinners, and it's not Fanboy and Chum Chum. It's my favorite Nicktoon since Rugrats, The Loud House. Alright, so if you haven't known already, there are people who hate The Loud House. And they, of course, have descriptors like the characters being stereotypes, lack of character development, well, stereotypes in quotation, and quote-unquote poor writing, because the writers are quote-unquote cruel and lazy. And then you have descriptors like the show being quote-unquote unfunny, and then you have descriptors on, well, and this is in my opinion, taking it too far, saying that show is worse than Breadwinners, quote-unquote. And then you have the show being, well, making Nickelodeon quote-unquote worse. So yeah, those are descriptors that some haters have described The Loud House as. And of course, saying that it's worse than Breadwinners and saying that it made Nickelodeon worse is a bit of a stretch. Alright, so I of course will explain to you why the show isn't as bad as these people make it out to be, and why it's like the Nickelodeon equivalent of Austin Dillon. Anyways, let's say bring down why The Loud House is overhated. Alright, so people of course believe that the characters are bland, and there are people that believe that they are stereotypes, and there are some people that say that they are bland and stereotypes, but that's not the case. There's actually more character development in The Loud House than these people realize. They just don't see it. In order to understand the character development of The Loud House, you have to understand the show's strengths. And there are actually some deep moments. The Loud House is a show that aims to become a cartoon where the characters are not your stereotypical 90s cartoon characters. I mean, we've always had, like, the cast of boys with the one girl who likes girly things. That trend, of course, went well into the Emoji Movie. But The Loud House sought to break convention and, of course, have the characters have interests and character traits outside of who they are. That's why they break stereotypes. For example, Lincoln Loud is not just a boy. Yes, he likes comics and he likes boy things, but we see him develop throughout the show. And we see Lincoln Loud do other things other than your usual boy in a cartoon. Another example. Lori Loud isn't just your teenage your teenage girl who's obsessed with a phone. Yes, teenage phone. Like a phone can be a teenager. Yeah, let's say teenage girl because she's a teenage girl. She also has some deep character traits. She has a boyfriend, and even more interesting, she had a longtime rival who became friends with her. This is what counts as character development. And this is the strengths of the Loud House, going beyond the status quo and breaking character convention. Some people don't understand this and just look at the characters as just stereotypes. But these characters aren't stereotypes. A stereotype is, well, characters from Family Guy, the Asian stereotypes that, while kids like and kids think they're funny, and I used to think they're good characters, they aren't that funny and they aren't that interesting. These characters have interesting traits. Everyone, of course, is quick to disagree with me, and that's okay. We all have different views on things and different opinions. But the strengths of the Loud House is all about breaking character convention, and that's what people don't understand. The characters in the Loud House are more misunderstood than stereotypes. And then, of course, you bring down the jokes being quote-unquote unfunny. Some of the jokes in the show can be funny, and it's not just potty humor and gross-out humor. There are some adult jokes in the show itself. It traces back to the 90s. And of course, the hate towards the Loud House is unnecessary, and there's no reason for it. At all. It's just a cartoon. You should get a life, other than ranting about a cartoon. And I would also like to explain what the Loud House did for Nickelodeon. Several people believe that it didn't save Nickelodeon, but that's not true. And the reason why that's not true is because the Loud House actually did more for Nickelodeon than these people realize. You see, like, I'm gonna bring up a cartoon . Oh. Yeah, just yeah. Yeah, I'm going to bring up a cartoon that many people believe was the savior of Nickelodeon, Harvey Beaks. Yeah, it's a good cartoon series, but if you look here, the show's creator, Greenblatt himself, behind the scenes, wasn't too impressed with how the cartoon was being handled. Yes, people, of course, look at good things with Harvey Beaks, but it was bleaker behind the scenes. And of course, he would announce the show would be canceled and he would move back over to a Warner Brothers and Cartoon Network. And of course, this show was nominated for awards, but it never won any. Compare that to the Loud House. This show is still on the air today, and when it first premiered, it was dominant in the ratings. It was higher in the ratings than Harvey Beaks could ever hope of dreaming. Yeah, it was higher in the ratings than the cartoon that people believe actually saved Nickelodeon. Yeah, the high ratings, of course, meant that the Loud House was really popular, and for a long time, people thought it was going to be the next SpongeBob, and that it was finally going to dethrone the yellow sponge once and for all. And that is not an understatement. People believe the Loud House saved Nickelodeon for a good reason. It really did. It was hugely successful. And look at how many awards it won. It won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 awards it won. And the Harvey Beaks never won any awards due to its short lifespan. Yeah, so the Loud House actually has done more for the network than the show that people think actually saved Nickelodeon. And of course, the characterization is also pretty good. It's also true. I explained about the character dynamics. And get this, the show has normal people, not talking animals, not talking cartoon animals with magical powers. And it doesn't have any fantasy elements either. It's just normal people living a somewhat normal life. And of course, this traces back to the 90s when some kids' cartoons were like this, like Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold was actually a show that is about a normal boy living a normal life, although it was different. Yeah, well, this is common in adult shows. It's not as common in kids' shows. And of course, ever since, say, Hey Arnold and Proud Family stopped airing, we haven't had a show about normal people living a somewhat normal life. I say somewhat because, well, there are some things in the Loud House that are unrealistic, like Lisa's experiments. But that's the thing, though. It blends the line between cartoony things and realism. Something that Harvey Beaks doesn't do, and that's why the Loud House is unique. And the only other show that's like this is its own spin-off show, the Casa Grandes. It traces back to the 90s, and it also has a newspaper comic show. In fact, both shows have it. You see, the Loud House isn't as bad as you would think it is. And I've understood the characters pretty well. Yeah. And I've actually sent the email to the animation director at Nickelodeon for the episode concept scripts, because if you look here, yeah, the Loud House is at risk of being cancelled. Yeah, and this is the script. I didn't print it out because it would be a waste of printer ink. But I'll post the link to the scripts on DeviantArt when you can find them. So yeah. The Loud House is pretty much like the Austin Dillon of Nickelodeon. Something that gets unfairly bashed and unfairly treated. And it's not like the Loud House is a failure or anything. It's not like it's an intentionally bad cartoon. It's actually a good cartoon. It's way better than Breadwinners. Much better than Breadwinners and much better than Fanboy and Chum Chum. And in some respects, it could be better than the Harvey Beaks, as good as that show is. It's the concept that works. When it comes to the Loud House, it's the concept that works. It's a concept that's worked, and Nickelodeon just ran with it. They didn't need to change it. Although, it does need better staff. I have to agree on that. The Loud House does need better animation staff handling the show. Ever since Chris Savino left, the animation staff had tried their best to keep the show running. But yeah, that's why the Loud House, in my opinion, is overhated and why it doesn't deserve the attention. I mean, not the attention. It deserves all the attention that's getting, and doesn't deserve all the hate that's getting. And the Loud House isn't as bad as people make it out to be. In fact, the Mirror He's reception wikis say season 4 to present of the Loud House is really bad. But believe me, these wikis, of course, try to make these episodes bad. And believe me, these episodes aren't nearly as bad as the Mirror He's reception wikis make it out to be. If you want to know more about why the Mirror He's reception wikis are not as good as people think they are, not as reliable sources as fandom, go check out the Package Reviewer's rant on it with one of his good friends. So yeah, that's why, in my opinion, the Loud House is overhated and why it could even surpass SpongeBob. Yeah, I still think the Loud House has the chance to be the next mascot cartoon of Nickelodeon to dethrone the Yellow Sponge. Because SpongeBob's reign, yeah, it's long overdue. SpongeBob's pretty much on life support now. While SpongeBob was good in its first seasons, the newer episodes just have never been any good. And Nickelodeon has been milking it dry. The same can be said for the Loud House, but it's kind of the opposite of the Loud House. The earlier episodes are not as good, but then it gets better in the later episodes. At least in my opinion. So yeah, the Loud House is overhated, and it doesn't deserve all the hate that it's getting. And of course, well, to be honest, just ranting about cartoons and complaining about them and wanting them to get cancelled is a waste of time. I mean, there's better things to do other than ranting on cartoons. And you have to understand that the animators and staff who worked on the cartoons have to deal with a weekly time slots and a schedule. Yeah, that's why I think those are my thoughts on why the Loud House is overhated and why it doesn't deserve all the hate that it's getting. Yeah, I want the Loud House to continue, and I want it to run for a long time. And I'm hoping for the best for that show. As I said before, I have come up with some scripts. So yeah, that's that. Batman's arch nemesis is the Joker, but my arch nemesis is the YouTube algorithm. Smaller channels are being attacked and put at risk because of the viewer-based algorithm that YouTube has. And yes, the Racer Simmer Productions YouTube channel will be needing every ounce of support from you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see when new Racer Simmer Productions videos are being posted. And together, we can help defeat the algorithm and drive it away from the Racer Simmer Productions YouTube channel. And yes, every subscriber count matters, because it means you are really awesome and you support me through the difficult time on being on YouTube. Yeah, it means you really support me during these difficult times. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next time.